What's going on, everyone? Bran here from Bloody Breakdown, and today this video is going to be for the zombie lovers in my audience, more specifically the Romero zombie lovers in my audience. So before we do any of that, just a reminder, if you do indeed like today's video, let me know, let YouTube know, thumbs it up, subscribe, turn on notifications, and check down below in the description section to find a link to my Twitter if you'd like to follow me, or my Patreon like Raul the Great. You could become a producer, a supporter of this channel and the content that I'm making. So yeah, I would be grateful. But anyway, enough shilling. Let's jump into the story here. So I recently did a stream with a guy named Tav, and we covered our personal favorite zombie films. Between the two of us, there was a lot of George A. Romero, as you might have expected. Definitely some other stuff in there, but Romero is kind of like the godfather of the modern zombie. And I think, generally speaking, all zombie fans have a soft spot for Romero at some point. I would be remiss to say that Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead isn't one of the greatest trilogies in and of itself in horror. And yeah, things may have taken a little turn after Land, I would personally say. But there's some more news. We're not going to end on survival of the dead, hopefully anyway, if this article has anything to say about it, if the wife of George A. Romero has anything to say about it. So without further ado, let's jump into it, because as you can see from the title here, Twilight of the Dead, final zombie movie written by George A. Romero, is getting a second chance at life. So there was a point in time a number of years ago, I'm wanting to say it was shortly after Romero's death, so 2016 or 17, where it was stated that there was a treatment, and maybe even potentially some of the script written for a final Romero of the Dead film. And that news, as soon as it came out, it went away, and we really haven't heard anything else from it again until now. So let's dig into the article. Because it says, before he passed away back in 2017, horror master George A. Romero had been developing one final zombie movie titled Twilight of the Dead, which is now coming back to life. THR reports today that Suzanne Romero, wife of the late zombie film director, has quietly been working with screenwriters on the script and is now seeking meetings with directors. It says here, the story is set in a decimated world. Life has all but disappeared, but there still may be hope for humanity. As you might expect at the tail end of a huge zombie franchise, I guess you would kind of expect at this point for the world to be pretty much decimated. But yeah, the article reads on, as the site explains, Romero had written the treatment for Twilight of the Dead with Paolo Zalotti, and is now who is now working with Joe Netter and Robert L. Lucas to finish the project. Quote, I gave him my full blessing as long as I could be there every step of the way for it to remain true to George's vision, Suzanne Romero said in a statement. We had a solid treatment and the beginning of the script. I can 100% say that George would be incredibly happy to see this continue. He wanted this to be his final stamp on the zombie genre. And I want it to be too, because I'll just be honest with you. Night, Dawn, Day, perfect films. Love them. Absolutely love them. I would even go as far as to say that I enjoyed Land of the Dead quite a lot. John Leguizamo, I think it came out around 2005. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But the only ones I had real issue with were the last two. They kind of tried their hands at the found footage subgenre with I even forget that, Diary of the Dead. That's what it was, and it kind of played into the film that came after it, Survival of the Dead, which is, in my opinion, the absolute worst in the of the Dead franchise. I was not a big fan of that, and I was really bummed that was the last film we got before Romero's passing in 2017. So this This is big news for somebody like me, and I'm sure a lot of you as well. So it says Romero followed seminal zombie films Night of the Living Dead with Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, and Survival of the Dead. According to THR's report, Twilight of the Dead is something more of a direct follow-up to Land of the Dead. And reading that part, that's what gets me super excited, because as I just indicated, and I know a lot of people feel the same way I do, those last two were not really up to par for a Romero of the Dead film. And I know some people kind of feel that way about Land too. And I can see where they're coming from. The first three are so good. I think maybe that was the first one that really isn't held in the same high regard that the previous entries had been, even though I quite enjoyed Land of the Dead. I know there are a lot of people out there that did not. So I think it's a really good idea to go back and, just kind of, this is the kind of story where you can pick it up wherever you want to. With different characters, different parts of the world, different scenarios, different length of time into the zombie apocalypse. So it can be done, and I think it could be done rather well to pick up after Land of the Dead. And personally, if I had my druthers, that's where I'd want to pick up anyway. So I'm very excited to see that. Quote, "It is no secret that Diary and Survival were not the way he envisioned the series ending, and George knew it very well," Zelati explains. "Twilight of the Dead was his goodbye to the genre he created and wanted to go out with a powerful film." And boy, this Zelati dude he hit the nail on the head there. Even George knew those last two were not up to par. They were direct-to-video releases, if I'm not mistaken, from... what I forget the name of it, was Dimensions, like sub company or whatever it was called, Dimension Extreme, I believe it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe they were both released under Dimension Extreme. Could be wrong. Like I said, not big fans of those films, but even George knew at the end of the day. George knew that those two films weren't really up to par with the rest of the franchise. And, it sucks he passed away with those being the last things he gave us. Because like this article said here at the end, this is a genre that Romero created. You got to think, before Romero, zombies were much different creatures. You go back and you look at I Walked with a Zombie, or you look at White Zombie, things of that nature, and you'll see that zombies were very different horror creatures back before Romero made them what they are today. That's why, he's always referred to as the godfather of the modern zombie film. He really is. So not only do I hope this movie gets made, which at this point, I think that it should. I think that there's definitely a studio out there that'll pick up on this. I just hope it's a studio that's going to be able to put the proper amount of finances into it, that they're going to get the right people on this thing, because this is the last shot, to do something that is a brainchild of George A. Romero. He wrote the treatment. Apparently there were parts of the script he had written, and they're taking what they have from George, and they're finishing it off, finishing the script, hopefully turning it into this film, which it looks like that's going to be the case. And I really hope they knock it out of the park with this one. Because like I said, those last two, not very good entries, horrible way, honestly, in my opinion, for the last mark of George A. Romero on film should not be Survival of the Dead. So I hope this thing gets made, as it looks like it's going to. If everyone keeps up with the progress here, stays on top of the project, this thing is going to get made. And I really hope, like I said, I mentioned recently in a couple of videos about certain franchises that really needed to knock one out of the park, like Hellraiser or Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This one may be the most important one, because it's the last time we're getting anything from the mind of Romero, as altered as it may end up being in the end, because I don't think we really would know the full extent of what it is he would want to do with this film. Maybe we did. Maybe the treatment was very detailed. I don't know. But this could be it will be the last thing we get from the mind of Romero on the subgenre that he created, on the creatures that he created. And not only do I hope it's a really good movie, I hope it does well financially, I hope it does well critically, but I hope it also goes back to, what these films always were about, other than just zombies, kind of the subtext underneath. There was always a commentary on society. And no matter what that commentary is, I kind of expect it to be there. I know some of the later films, it was still there, but it really wasn't as prevalent. Maybe, maybe I didn't get everything the way that I got from the original few films, which, it was never really shoved in your face. It was just undertones you kind of had to pick up on. So I hope to see some stuff like that. But just in general, I hope to see this Twilight of the Dead film come to fruition, and us to finally be able to, close the chapter on on George A. Romero's Of the Dead franchise, his subgenre, his monsters, specifically for that franchise. Put it to bed on a very good note. I'd be a happy guy if that were the case. So let me know what you all think. Are you excited on this momentum we're now getting for Twilight of the Dead? Are you excited to see it happen? Do you not want to see it happen? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section on today's topic. And while you're down there, check the description section. Like I said earlier, you'll see a link to my Patreon where you, like Ral the Great, could become a producer of this damn fine content here at Bloody Breakdown. You'll also see a link to my Twitter if you'd like to follow me. Pretty much all horror stuff like you see here as well. And yeah, I guess that's about it. Well, you know what? It is the end of the video. So like I said at the beginning, if you enjoyed it, let me know. Let YouTube know. Like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications if you haven't already. And like I said earlier, definitely leave me some comments. I want to know what you all think about this one, because I'm as early as this is in talks and negotiations, as far as finishing treatments and scripts and shopping it around to studios and directors. As early as this all is, I'm super excited for this. So fingers crossed everything comes together well. And with that said, I'm Brand from Bloody Breakdown, and we'll catch you all next time.